was just playing with y'all. Say it right.
Yeah, that's a good,
All right, we ready? All right.
important question.
All right, good evening. I know we're starting a little bit earlier, but we put in our agenda that we would start right after the public hearing, so welcome this evening. Today is October 16th, 2023, and we'll start the meeting off with the invocation and pledge. And I believe Councilmember Smith. Yes.
Thank you. You're welcome to join me in prayer. It is my prayer that we find ways to work and live in peace and harmony, even in times of uncertainty and instability. We're here tonight to celebrate the achievements of community members, receive reports and initiatives to enhance the quality of life for residents, and take action on policy items for the betterment of our community, which is a blessing. I am grateful that we have a council and a staff that takes these matters seriously and cares about our decisions and how they can impact the city. However, there are communities that are in turmoil, and I pray for those communities' strength, healing, peace, and comfort during these very difficult times. I hope that they have the faith to keep the beacon of light shining, and hope that this storm too shall pass. Let's keep them lifted in prayer and do our part to live in peace and harmony and show others it can be done. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is we have a couple proclamations, but we're going to move that down on the agenda because we are starting a little bit earlier. And when they get here, we will make sure it is well recognized, and we'll move it later on, basically probably near policy action of the agenda. So next, you're back on again.
I'm back on again.
On public session, Councilmember Smith. So.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. This is your opportunity to make a comment to City Council. We have anything that is not on our agenda already under policy action. So we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. And when you come up to the podium, if you can state your name and your residence for the record, and then you also have to sign in as well. But please, we love to hear from you. This is your time to speak. Anyone welcome, come on up.
Good evening. My name is James Charles Goodendon. 24 hours per day heinous, 24 hours per day graphic, 24 hours per day horror, 24 hours per day plague on James Charles Goodendon.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? All right. Well, Mayor, I will turn it back over to you.
Appreciate it very much.
Close public session at this time.
All right, thanks. The next is the possible approval of minutes from October 2nd of 2023. Would somebody like to make a motion? All right. Have a second? Second. Thank you both. All right. Any comments, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you very much. Next, we'll go into reports and discussion. First, I know Lindsay's getting ready to already come up here. We're going to receive a report on the parking improvements that are in process downtown and recommendations for next steps. I know, we started a little early, you know.
It's early. I didn't make copies for
Do you want to, we can move, we can make an adjustment.
I'm gonna have to share this one copy because I can't make it on.
We'll pass it around.
There you go. It's all good, it's all good.
There we go.
Bless her.
You got it, you got it.
Parking. So, I'm giving you an update on where we are and where I think we should go, or some recommendations for where I think we should go. Currently, we are onboarding parking enforcement software Right now, we have a triplicate ticket that is handwritten, that is turned into dispatch at the end of every shift. Dispatch looks up the license plate numbers, prints off the license plate, contact information. All that gets passed over to court, where court staff enters the tickets and the license plate information into law track. And then that's where it sits. We have purchased handheld devices that are use license plate recognition software to scan the plates, generate digital tickets right there on site. Okay, so this will eliminate us the manual entry of the tickets. Right now, the thought is that we'll pull the tickets from court because it's a civil issue, it's not a criminal issue. So the appeals process and stuff will be handled under a parking services umbrella. With the new software, there's a patron portal, so when you get a ticket, at the bottom of the ticket, if you look at go to the next screen, the ticket will look like that. And on the bottom of the ticket, we'll have a website to go to, a telephone number to call, or a QR code to scan, and you can pay your ticket that way. This software generates past due notices and can do collections for us. Currently, we do not do collections on tickets. There's not a system by which to do collections on tickets, so that alone will be an improvement in the efficiency of being able to ticket. That was a very discombobulated presentation on the parking enforcement software. Do you have any questions about that?
So these are the kiosks, just like they are on campus?
We haven't gotten to that yet, right?
No. This is a handheld, I have it in my office, it's a handheld device that will scan your license plate, and it can tell our parking enforcement officers how long a vehicle's been there. It does digital chalk marking. Yes.
Interesting, all right.
Which I'm sure that they will embrace, right?
Very
We've
much
gotten
so.
positive, okay,
Yes.
good.
Yes, and that is a done deal. We're on the onboarding process of that right now. The next phase that we're pretty well into is the metering of on-street parking. This is the kiosk. The recommendation is to meter all on-street spaces. That is premium parking, and currently we are not charging for our premium parking. We are charging people to park in the parking deck and then walk to where they want to go, and we're not charging people to be able to park in front of the business that they're patronizing. So if you look at the map, this is where I could use some feedback, or if you want to give me some feedback. Going through downtown and looking at metering all the on-street spaces downtown, we come up with 24 meters. Now that is 3 meters at the Keith Street parking deck. That is 1 meter at the Finley deck, which is what we currently have. And then the rest of the meters are spaced strategically from 93 all the way up to the Bixby and all the side streets. Now, the recommendation is to have a meter every 10 parking spaces. So that is what you're looking at. That being said, the software has text to pay, and it's another slide, but the meters are for people who want to physically go to a kiosk and pay. For those that aren't comfortable just texting on their phone to pay. So that is where I'm not sure if we need as many of them as we have in the recommendation, or if that is what makes everyone comfortable. Also, the blue ones are, if you can see, the blue ones are hardwired, the green ones are solar. And then of the 24 kiosks, 8 of those kiosks will accept bills. So all of them are accept cards, coin, and touchless, which would be like Apple Pay. And then 8 placed strategically around town would accept bills. That is another thing to think about. Do we feel strongly that we need to have kiosks that accept bills? And do we need 8 of them? Do we just need them at the parking deck? Do we, like that? These are the questions that I made executive decisions and used recommendations from other people in the industry, but we can make any choice that we want to make. And so any feedback, if you have any feedback with that, you can, yes ma'am.
I have a question. So, because I've done this in different towns. Athens has this, Athens has a company and you can download the app and then you can pay in Athens. I've also seen it done in other towns different ways. But is there going to be an app if I want to park in Clemson that it's with a company? And so it makes it easier?
The kiosk interface with all the parking apps, so Flowbird, Park Mobile, all those.
Okay.
But you also have text to pay,
Okay.
which does not require you to download an app. It is a what is it they call it? It's
QR code.
There's a name for it. Anyway, you don't have to have an app for it.
Because the reason I asked, to me, that's a thought if I would need cashless or not, if we could tell residents that you download the app and that made it easier. That's all I was thinking.
Yes, and like we currently use Flowbird is what is the current app. That Flowbird app is compatible with the kiosks that we are purchasing. All of them are pretty much compatible.
You talk about the ones that take bills, but they all take cards, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and they all take coin
They all take coin.
Coin too.
and
So the
touchless.
collection of that is
Yes,
very
there are
intensive.
many layers to this, and that is what, yes, those are.
So when you did when you did the research, are most places going cashless?
We have
Right.
to think about it.
Yes.
I would think,
And the kiosks that accept bills are more expensive because they've got different
everybody's
parts.
got to the point now where, I mean, whether they like it or not, they're accustomed to using a card of some form, where I wouldn't probably offer the cashless either. Do we really need 20?
The way our parking is set up, I mean, I do feel like we need that many, but if y'all thought we could get away with less, I would be okay with that too. College Avenue above Keith Street or below Keith Street, I always say above, but it's really below, like from Keith Street headed towards Starbucks. The parking along the street is really, it's like you'll have 2 spaces and then you've got a fire lane and a driveway, and it's like to put a kiosk along that stretch and to space them is not easy. As a matter of fact, the one I have circled in the middle is in front of the youth center, which is an extremely narrow section of sidewalk. And if I don't move it, will require an easement, and I'm not sure we want to deal with that.
Well, and I was just looking at that because you got one right there by All In Cafe, and then you got one right across the street from it in front of Campus City. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
And then the one down there in the back of Earl, where they're gonna be walking up from back there too. I looked at that too and thought you could consolidate that to maybe one.
Yeah.
If it's okay, I wouldn't mind just kind of going and walking around some of these too.
You
I
are
do feel
welcome
like
to.
these
We
are.
walked the entire downtown, and I was like, I thought when I thought started this, I thought we were gonna have like 8 kiosks.
And you
Is what I thought we were gonna be, and we walked all of downtown, and I went, oh my God.
Question
We'll
though.
take the golf cart then.
Yes, we didn't have to go on
A
that.
question though, because other places that I've been, they don't have as many kiosks, but they do have a sign.
We'll have to, there will be
So-
signs as many places as we can put signs
'Cause I was
that say
thinking,
text
if you
park.
have the
Yes.
signs, then you definitely don't need as many.
Because you got,
'Cause
to
if you-
remember your spot, your number.
No.
My recommendation is pay by plate, not pay by space.
Yeah, so if you pay by plate, then you just have the app or have you text it, and you can do it from your car, and then
Yes.
it's already done, and so you don't even have to go look for a kiosk.
Yes.
So you can just do it that way, unless you have a card or you don't have it on your phone, and then you have to go find the kiosk. And so I think that's a way to eliminate some of
Yes.
those.
Because for all that
'Cause you
parking
can
in
put
front of
those
the Center, for example, there's one there, and for all the parking there behind Dr. Hills, it's just one there. So,
Yes, but those are lots, and for like,
I
for the
understand that, but
Lutheran
still,
church
I mean-
lot, we will put one kiosk at the exit of the lot. This is linear parking all the way down.
I know,
you
but I think if people realize what via the signs, what's going on here, I don't know that we need 20.
I don't know that.
Okay, are you
20 I don't know
volunteering?
that- I don't know that 20 is enough, the way that our parking currently is set up.
Parking, so,
I hear field trip in our future.
field trip.
Field trip, field trip.
Well, the concept's great,
Yeah.
so we gotta decide, this gets down to minutia now as far as the number of.
Well, field trips, you said, so.
Yes, field trip. So if you'll go to the next. So this is what the kiosk will look like. The Cosmo is, no, the Loop 2 accepts cash. Yes, so the one that looks like a little alien.
Okay, so we decided not to do that one.
No, we're doing that one.
We didn't decide that.
We have no decisions.
I like cash, John.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next, if you go to the next one, Andy.
You're gonna have to have.
So this is the text to pay. This is the signage that'll be everywhere downtown. It'll be on the kiosk, it'll be on, poles in between the kiosk. It will be, that's not specifically what it is, that's a mock-up of what it could be. The text can be anything we want it to be. Like we can personalize it, it can look any way we want it to look. And then that's an image of like what pulls up when the text to pay.
So if these, you said these are compatible with like Park Mobile and the other, so we could put that on the signs as well, like,
Yes.
or use Park
Or
Mobile.
Park Mobile,
or-
yes.
Yeah, so that could be on the signs, and if we had, and since it's paid by license plate, the signs can do a lot for
Yes.
us.
We still, though, have to like,
We'll need a lot of signs.
yes, and that just is gonna be like visual clutter. And that gives me consternation, but we have to do it.
We either need lots of signs or lots of kiosks, or if there's gonna be, or
Well,
what's the
there's
right
not a lot
balance?
of room.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room. So, and the recommendation is you put a sign every 5 to 10 spaces.
Yeah,
So if we've got a
exactly.
kiosk around every 10 spaces, I say we should have signs on either side of the key, like, it should be every, why are you shaking your head? What are you shaking your head at?
I don't think we need kiosks every 10 spaces.
You're not gonna be able to use it anyway.
It doesn't
You're not gonna be able to figure out the
matter.
technology.
The city's gotta pay.
I wasn't going to
All right, let's keep moving. Lizzie, please keep on moving.
It's also about traffic
I
flow.
assumed he was a cash guy.
You also have to think about traffic flow, like where you put the kiosk, if the majority of the people getting out of their vehicles, are they going this way, are they going that way? Is it split evenly? Because that changes.
So for tonight, we're not solving that. This is just kind of review the
This is
concept.
like, this is what's in process.
So we are not, okay, wait, so I'm confused. Is there a vote that we take to approve putting these downtown?
No.
No, it's happening.
What's happening?
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget, yes.
How much is each?
We already approved going down this road in the
Yes.
budget process.
We're just talking about minutia now, Lily.
I'm throwing things out there. We can have for a conversation, or if there's anything I'm saying that really gives you heartburn.
Heartburn here.
Okay.
I do not think that we should not have some form of available parking for free downtown. I just think it's a bad idea to eliminate any free parking, whether it's only 10 spaces or something.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? This would take away all free parking?
It would take away all.
I think that's a bad idea.
Okay. My only response to that is that there's not really an area downtown that's not a hot spot. Like prior to the construction of the Bixby. I would have said that that stretch of College Avenue is a great place to have free parking because it's kind of off. It's free, but you're gonna have to walk down. But now we've got commercial, that
Right.
entire stretch.
I'm just of the opinion, I understand you're doing your job. I'm of the opinion that I should, or anybody in town should be able to pull their car up if there's an open space on whatever designated area, pull in, go to the store for the limited hour, or whatever it is, for free. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
And I wish we had that. Now, that it does bring up the question of handicap spaces.
What about handicap spaces?
Well, are they going,
Handicap spaces are free all the time.
They're free, they're
You know,
free all the
yeah.
time.
They are not
Yep.
time limited and you cannot charge.
okay.
So they don't know.
And my second question for you is the cost of the kiosk, each kiosk?
The cost of each kiosk, I don't have that.
Okay, never mind.
The project is $240,000.
Okay. I really just had no idea how much a kiosk
I
cost.
didn't either. I know way more than I ever thought in my lifetime. I would know
About parking, yes, I'm sure.
Yes. Which takes us to recommendations.
Well, before you go to recommendations,
Okay.
one question. To kind of piggyback off of what Lillian said, we may not be able to be free all day, but is there going to be a certain time? Or is it going to be cost 24/7?
No,
Because-
right now, it is the 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay,
It's
so
the
after-
same as the parking deck, it's the recommendation for right now, it's the same time as the parking
So
deck.
after 5?
Yes.
You would still
Okay.
be able to park?
Yes.
So,
And on
so
weekends.
there's a compromise there. So,
And if that is something that you would like to discuss further, I'm open to discussing it further. I would want a suggestion from you as to where free parking would be.
I can do that.
Because it would have to be an entire street. Yeah, it couldn't be like this parking on Sloan is free, but you pay, like, it would have to be a
Sure.
zone.
Very
essentially.
clearly, yeah.
Which these systems can operate by zones. So you can park one place and pay at multiple meters for your parking. You don't have to pay at the meter that's like right
Right.
there beside where you parked.
Sure.
That's just another caveat.
So it
Okay.
knows if I move, so if I scan and say I'll be gone in an hour, but then I end up having drinks with Lillian for a couple of hours, I can.
Why are we not in Uber at that
I
point?
said, why are you here? That's
All righty.
I just meant, okay, so
But that's
shopping.
where the post
Well,
5 PM,
I do like that you brought up this compromise. And it matches the parking deck.
The on-street, okay.
New mimosas.
So that moves into my recommendations for on-street parking. You've already approved the, well, yes. You've already approved the keep on going. We've already approved the no overnight parking in the downtown district. What we didn't do was define what the downtown district was. So my recommendation is that we define the downtown district and that it be from Edgewood to TD's, essentially, and all the little side streets in there. That would be the downtown district. At some point, we need to begin enforcing the no overnight parking in the downtown district. And phase 1 of extending enforcement hours would be to add an hour at the end, keep it Monday through Friday. Phase 2, I'm recommending that we do have pay to park Monday through Saturday. Now, phase 2 means like we are currently interviewing for an additional parking enforcement officer full-time. We would need another half-time person before we could even begin to think about metering on Saturday. That really is like, I think Monday through Friday is great. What I definitely recommend we do is that once we have metered on-street parking, there needs to be a game day fee, a special event fee to park on Saturday game days that you pay for on-street parking. And you can set the system up to that. So like if you park on street on a game day Saturday, it's $30, $25, whatever is appropriate, whatever y'all feel is appropriate. I feel more strongly about that than I do of moving to Saturday enforcement.
downtown district thing, just real quick, with the new development below that, I think we need to go all the way through College Avenue. It's already, overnight parking is happening considerably down near the Bixby right now today.
Yes, but like, where's the line?
And it's gonna be harder to put that toothpaste back in the tube if we don't just go ahead and make it consistent on the front end.
Well, I only said Edgewood because of the uptown.
Right.
Like, where does uptown,
Oh, yeah, well.
where does
yeah.
uptown come down to or up to? Like,
Well, I think we
where-
just need to be consistent
Yes.
because that's gonna be downtown, uptown, all
I
one
don't
thing.
disagree
So,
with
So
you.
how far are you talking?
all on-street parking on College Avenue.
All the way up to,
There's only that little to
oh, you're
spread
talking.
It stops up there at basically Strud Circle.
Stop
I was gonna say, there's nothing after that.
It's 10 or 12
And
spots. maybe.
there's multiple reasons for that, and it's only the 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., but it is, there are other improvements to downtown that as we begin to move through those, having the street clear for loading and unloading, for street sweeping, for stuff, that is important. As is making sure, and this has come from the merchants, that people don't come in on Friday and park their car and leave their car all weekend long in front of their business, you know, but they're visiting their significant other and somewhere else downtown. So that is the thought behind the no overnight parking on street as well. My recommendations for the parking deck, Andy Blondo. Currently in the parking deck, we pay by space. I think that pay by plate is universal. It also, if you're entering your plate, then the system's tagging your plate, and so when you enter your plate, you get, for our time-limited parking, which is the on-street parking, if we limit it to, oh, I skipped over something. Go back to on-street parking. On-street parking. My recommendation is that all on-street parking be 2 hours. Currently, there are like a few spaces on College that are an hour, and then right beside the ones that are an hour, there's 2 hour spaces, and then you've got, as you move up or down the street, you have 3 hour spaces. Very confusing. I think that 2 hours across the board downtown is a decent amount of time, and is easier for our people who are not familiar with, who come into town, who, it's just
2 hours.
clean it up, yeah. It's not, so I skipped that, okay. Pay by plate in the deck. So, I would like to eliminate the 4 hour time limit for parking in the deck and move from a penalty system to a pay to play system, where right now it's a 4 hour limit. If you stay over 4 hours, then you get a ticket for overtime parking. Currently, you can add time to the meter and it doesn't flag anything because it's pay by space. So the same car can sit in the space for 9 hours and actually pay. Anyway, the new system, my recommendation is to have the first three hours be $1 per hour, and then hours 4 and 5 would be $2 per hour, and hours 6, 7, 8, and 9, because it's currently 8 to 5 is 9 hours, would be $3 an hour. So and I put the examples in there so that, you know, if you're downtown for 3 hours, it's $3. If you're gonna park on our parking deck for 8 hours, it's gonna cost you $16, and it's gonna be $16 a day. And hopefully that would be the tipping point where it's not economical for you to use the parking deck to park all day long. And if you do, then you're going to pay for it. It's going, you know, that is my recommendation. But that's just me.
I think that's cheap for 8 hours of parking.
Yeah.
I tried to be conservative. We could go higher. And I checked with the the system that we're working with, and there is a way for the mobile pay to catch if you buy 3 hours and then you decide you're having a really good time hanging out with the girls and you want to stay an additional 2 hours, that when you go to add time, that it catches that you've already paid for 3 hours and it's going to charge you at that additional rate. What they're working on now is the actual kiosk itself, the interface of the unit. That's not as easy to program that. So we'll have to see how that checks out and adjust if that doesn't work. So that's my question. How do you feel about the rates?
I assume you did your research and that this is common?
Actually, the tiered structure that increases is not common at all. It's common in like New York, but here in this area, it's actually where you find that your per hour rate and then your per day rate, your per day is like you have a daily max.
That's what
Everywhere I look,
yeah.
it's a daily max. You know, if you paid per hour, you might pay $15 to be in a deck, but their daily max is $12. We don't want to do that. That's not what we don't want to encourage people to stay beyond, so this is more like what they do up north.
Because what if I park for 8 hours and I pay my $16, but then I end up, if I leave my car there overnight?
You do have to get an Uber home.
Yeah.
What happens?
That's my question.
Well, you're not going to get charged per hour beyond the enforcement hours, and enforcement hours stop at 5 p.m.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's not like it's just going to
So
be.
that was my
I didn't
question.
catch that.
So if I end up leaving it there past the 8 hours, it just,
It will only charge, like, if I went there at 2, it wouldn't let me, and it ends
Right.
at 5, it'll only let me do.
do 3
Yes.
hours.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Got it,
Yeah.
got it.
That is my question.
I would have no problem with us like doubling the 4 and 5 and 6, 7, 8, and 9 rates.
At least
For
the
that
So
long
like
time.
for hours 4 and 5, you'd be paying $4 an hour?
I'd go 4 and 6. Again, I mean, that's a long time to be downtown during that
It is.
period, during that work period where you want people moving in and out of the area. So, you know, it's gonna be a convenience thing for like a student that decides I'm gonna park there and just pay to walk to class, or someone like that. That's what we're trying to avoid. And I think it's gonna take a little bigger of a disincentive.
$16.
Okay, I think that $6 an hour is extreme.
I say
But
one,
that's for
what about
hours 6, 7,
135?
8, 9.
135.
That's for 6, 7, that's for
Yeah,
6
135.
hours, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
$6 an hour for.
Yeah, and really 8 to 5 is the 9 hour. I mean, again, that's a long time to be taking, like for an individual to be taking a parking space downtown. Because most businesses don't open until 10 o'clock anyway. So, you know, our real hours are 10 to 5. And so, you know, most people aren't gonna get past 5 or 6 anyway that are down there doing business.
How hard is it to change if if we go with one and then you sit
Then we have to
there?
bump, yeah. I'd rather hit the gas and be able to come off of that as a reward than have to keep edging it up and go.
I thought Lillian had a good compromise, 1, 3, and 5. It's easy to remember.
Well, and
Gets us close to 6. I mean, that's it. You're right. Most people shouldn't even be paying $3 an hour.
okay.
Can you adapt, Lindsay?
Yes, we can do that ourselves, like we have the ability to go in and do it ourselves. And then the other change, which this might cause some consternation, is my recommendation is that we do away with seasonal leased parking.
Before we jump on that, I'm so sorry, I should have said this sooner. Is there the ability for special events, say trick-or-treating downtown, parades, things like that, to suspend
Yes,
in the deck?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
And it's not reading, they're not cameras that are reading your cars as
Right.
you come into the deck.
You're
So
entering it, right.
You have to pay to park. So when we suspend, we have the notices up and we have them around to say that parking's free for this.
Okay.
To Lillian's point, so will the chamber need to come back in still like they always do in December to talk about free parking downtown to encourage people to patronize businesses? Or can we adapt this?
Oh, yeah.
That's on the sidewalks.
I mean, there is messaging that can go on to the kiosk that can say parking is free, yes, yes.
Okay, so you just answered, thank you.
I also didn't say that my recommendation was $2 an hour for on-street parking with a 2-hour limit per day. Really messed me up, y'all starting 30 minutes early.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, so,
It's 6:30 now.
the football parking. The history with that is originally, when the parking deck was built, we had the meters at every single space, and they were coin meters. So for football parking, there was no way to charge more unless you collected the money. So the person who was in my position before I came here originally it was sold per game, and a staff person would sit at the entrance to the deck and take the money. Well, that's not very safe and was hard. So then we moved to let's lease the parking, because then we're handling it before the game. Nobody's dealing with money on a Saturday, when it's busy downtown. When we got the kiosk that we have currently, we could have put in a special event rate and could have just done metered parking in the deck, but we didn't. We kept doing what we've always done. I feel like we need to move to special event rate on game day Saturdays in the parking deck and open it up to a first come, first serve. You will find that on any given Saturday, the deck is a third to almost a half empty because people buy the spaces for the season and they don't come to every game. The deck is not full. And so you've got Kim, who's at the Keith Street deck, and you've got Sonia, who's at the Finley deck, telling people no all day long that there's no parking available when there's a lot of parking available, and there are people who are coming into town and just looking for somewhere to park, and we don't offer any public parking. Except for on-street spaces. And I don't need to tell you that if someone gets an on-street space on a Saturday game day, they're not moving,
Right.
and that's it.
Yeah.
The potential to sell a space more than one time opens up, because if it's a 7 o'clock game and I'm coming downtown to have lunch and shop for a little while, I'm going to pay the special event rate, park in that space, do what I'm doing, leave, and someone may very well come in after me, park in that same spot, and pay to be there. So the potential to increase revenue is there.
I think that's a great idea.
Not-
Can you change the hours as well for that?
It
So-
would just be a daily rate.
Should be daily.
So
It would-
24
yeah,
hours.
on a special event rate, I've done this, in Nashville has it. A special event, if a special event rate is in there, then you pay and you don't plug in how many
Flat
hours
rate.
you're gonna be there. It's a flat rate.
Got it.
It's
Got
a-
it.
And so every time you put it in there, that's what the rate is
It's
for
like they
that
do in
day.
Greenville, they pay $20 to go into their.
Yes, yes, and there are other schools that do that, like Auburn does it. I didn't bring my list, but there's 3 schools that I found in the southeast, like near us, that do that with
Game
their parking.
days, yeah.
Yes.
That's a great idea. I like that.
It also was more business friendly, to be honest with you. And especially for visitors that are coming in.
And you said earlier, we could do that in the on-street parking as
Yes,
well. We
yes.
have an event rate for on-street.
Yes.
And in the garages and, okay.
Saturday
So-
game days can be.
If we move, which I totally support it personally, but what are we telling the ones that have been doing the seasonal for years? Do we have an alternative? Can we work with somebody possibly? Just checking, we're putting it out there.
It's just, we're moving forward.
We just need to give them plenty of notice.
Yeah, we're moving forward. And this
Let
is-
him end this season and then move on.
Yeah.
All right.
Lots of notice.
I didn't know if we had any type of alternative to
Set your
even,
alarm.
okay.
And we don't, like right now, we have spaces that we did not lease. We are not on a wait list.
Right.
Okay,
We've
yeah.
always been on a wait list, but we're not
Okay.
on a wait list.
Like they might get a letter tomorrow, you know, that's the kind of thing.
And I did the math, like right now, the revenue, like for the 2022 football season, the revenue was 63,000 for the leases. For the 2023 season, the revenue was 61,000. If you have a $40 per game rate and you still have the decks 20% empty, you're gonna net out $60,000 annually. Fully occupied, just one time, selling each space just one time, that's $75,000.
Wow.
At $40. You can go down to 35 and it still puts us to the plus if we were at 35. Right now, our
That's still
in-town,
significantly below what people are getting for parking in downtown too, so. I mean,
But
Right.
the churches, but now if you park at the lots down, you know, Riggs and out that way, it's typically about $40.
Right.
Depending on the game.
Yeah,
it's
like,
been
I'm
60 or
60.
80.
Like, it can be 60, but 40 to 60 bucks.
right now, our in-town residents are paying $21 a game to park, and our out-of-town residents are paying
Yeah, because we've doubled it.
$43 a game to park since we adjusted the rates. I just wanted to give y'all that little bit of math. Yeah, so my recommendation mainly is to switch to the special event rate.
Yes.
What that rate is, I think we can come back to and
And switch by
decide.
that?
Anything that we do downtown that we want to charge for parking. And that brings me to my final slide, which we've talked about this, but I really want to move forward with taking North Sloan. So North Sloan is on the other side of the Catholic Church, and paving that and restriping it. It would need to be converted to one-way because if we do the angled parking, it's not wide enough to have two-way. To create employee permitted parking. So the parking spaces that would be on North Sloan would be permitted spaces. They would have to be purchased by business owners for their employees. I need council's approval to legitimately move forward with this. It's gonna require a budget amendment but I can't bring the budget amendment until I put it out for bid.
When the last time I remember talking about this, we were waiting to get surveys and figure out what was actually available on North Sloan.
That's
Is
what
where it was
I'm
kind of
saying.
stuck.
How many
You
spaces,
got
how
it.
many spaces?
It's like 21 spaces. I've communicated with the Presbyterian Church about their side lots. That is not an option at this time. I have not reached out to First Baptist with their rear lot, the lot that's connected to the parking deck. They've got on-street spaces right there on Sloan. Those we could negotiate and capture those. I would also reserve those as employee. I would include that. I also would include the spaces on Edgewood, on the, right there behind Catherine Smith. So that zone in there would be my recommendation to have designated employee parking.
Do the spaces on Edgewood, are they part of the 21?
No,
No, that would be an
21 is
additional.
North Sloan.
Because we need
21
more
is
than,
just on Sloan.
That's kind of
yeah, we
So,
need more than
the
21.
only question I got on this is how are we going to keep one employee from going in and reserving half of them when they don't really need them?
because you'll be limited to how many you can.
So you're going to be able to limit it, you'll say like 3 or 4
Yes.
per employee.
Mhm.
Well, what actually then, it'll be Nick's, for example, I'm picking on your deal, it'll be Nick's, for example, he'll have 3, and it'll be Nick's, and it won't be identified by anybody, they're just his.
The specifics of it I haven't quite worked out, but the point is, like, if Nick's has 3, then he will that's just 3 permitted vehicles for Nick's. That's all that'll be allowed to be parked in that area during that time.
So
So tonight, you're just looking for an indication to bring this back as a budget amendment
Yes.
to vote on, and then we'll work
I
on the
need a little bit
minutia.
more of a yes, let's move forward on it before I,
Yes, let's
Well, I
move
think the
on.
concept's great, you know, I mean.
Because we're gonna have
The
to.
more the merrier, but I'm just worried that,
Move it on.
you know.
Yeah, keep
What's
going.
that here?
so let me recap and circle back. Do we want to revisit special event rates? Like, is that something that you want me to have like as a policy action item?
I would say yes, that my recommendation on that, rather than trying to go event by event, is
yeah.
that we have some classifications of events. And we know what most of the major events are in town, that's not a secret.
And then the hourly rate for the parking deck.
135.
We'll bring that,
Somebody said 135.
an official, okay. 1-3. But this is just a discussion, this is not a vote, so I'm gonna bring this back as
That's fine.
some
We're good.
action item for y'all. Was there anything else that you wanted me to?
Well, you said there was a field trip involved.
Lindsay offers a field trip.
Yeah,
A field trip, yes. I'll get with y'all.
Downtown, uptown, those spots that are down there now, just include those now in the same thing.
So the ones all the way up College to
It's from Hubbard Young
Kiwi
to,
Trail. Kiwi Trail.
yeah, not even, it's a little past.
It's a little past that
Stroke.
road.
If it's Stroh.
Stroh. Okay, so Stroh, so you would say,
There's like 10 or 12 spaces there, just include those so everything's consistent.
Yep.
If you don't mind.
So then
okay,
there's
so
fighting
that'll
for this.
be, then that'll
green
also
space.
be an action item, will be the downtown district. I'll bring that in and y'all can vote to designate the downtown district so that we can have that clearly defined.
You got the enforcement hours. I'm just looking at your recommendations.
Yes.
And then what was the first one, Andy? That was earlier.
So just to understand, the enforcement hours, we still staying at 5 or we going to 6? We say enforcement hours.
Oh, my recommendation would be if we're gonna look at extending or doing anything differently, my recommendation would be to just take it to 6 o'clock Monday through Friday, to not do anything more than that for right now. If you want to do anything.
Or we can just leave it as
Or
is.
you can leave it as it is, yes.
Park at 5:05 and you're not gonna be over an hour.
And it's revisiting everything, recommendations for everybody again, remember, on the pay by plate,
Yes.
and then 2 hour, okay. So, keep moving forward.
Okay,
Thank you,
Thank
sorry
you
to
very
catch you off guard.
sorry, I was discombobulated.
You did very well, it's all good.
It's like you.
All good.
Thank you,
You
Lindsay.
like that, my phrase. All right, thank you again, Lindsay. Before we go to reports on item B, I think we have pretty much everybody in attendance now, and I believe Carlos is outside.
Yes.
So he should come inside.
Outside.
So we're going to go back on our agenda, back to a couple proclamations here. We'll wait till everybody comes in. I don't know if we have seats for everybody.
Why?
Full house.
There's some seats up here. They look like they got seats.
It's like, holy crap, Carlos.
Oh, great.
There's nobody sitting there with. There's seats up front. We have seats up front.
Yeah.
We have seats up front.
Is that everybody? It's all good, right?
Chief needs to go patrol Pool Lane right now, because I've circled the police work.
All right, we are honored to recognize 3 different people. We have 2 recognized proclamations, and then we have a special recognition that we're going to do tonight. So first, I'll start with Zariah. I see you in the back. You're in the back. You don't have to stand up, but we're getting ready to recognize you, but I'm going to read some stuff for some information first. So, and I have to put on my glasses, so everybody bear with me. This is a proclamation of recognition of service for Dr. Zariah Rocco. Whereas Dr. Zariah Rocco has been lecturing at Clemson University in the Glenn Department of Civil Engineering and Construction Engineering and Management since 2016, and currently serves as the department's coordinator for the Senior Design Keystone course. Whereas in addition to lecturing, Dr. Rocco is a project management professional and continues to work part-time within our own firm, Z-Rock LLC, doing pro bono work and consulting jobs during the summers. Whereas Zariah has 28 years of experience, I will say that again, 28 years of experience in the project and construction management industry, from heavy industrial private firms to government agencies, and has gained vast and variety job experiences due to frequent moves during her husband's military career. Whereas Zariah has worked with Pickens County Habitat for Humanity at Clemson University for the last couple of years to help coordinate project management and continuing plans with the student officers to sustain the programs within the campus, and is currently serving as a lead faculty advisor. Whereas Zariah is originally from Puerto Rico and lived most of her life in the upstate of South Carolina, thankfully here in Clemson, decided on the path of construction engineering and management after attending the Clemson Career Workshop 2 summers in a row. Whereas Zariah earned her bachelor's, master's, and PhD at Clemson University, met her husband, Keith Rocco, retired lieutenant colonel and fellow Clemson alumni at Lowry Hall on campus, and they moved back to Clemson with their 2 children in 2016. Now, therefore, we, the Clemson City Council, do hereby recognize Dr. Zariah Rocco for her contributions to the community as an educator and project manager. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed this 16th day of October 2023. Congratulations, Zariah. You get to come up now. You get to come up now. You don't have to say anything. And if any of your family, unless you want to, any of your family, friends, we'll take a picture. I see Rocco. There he comes. I see him at the gym sometimes. You're there more than me. Congratulations. We'll come around. We'll come around.
Okay.
We'll come around. The official one. Can I stand over here this time? I'm looking at y'all. No, see, I'm dropping stuff. So I'm sorry about that. I wasn't really trying to drop it. Let's see how long it takes me.
You need your glasses?
No, sir. Thanks for asking. Thanks for asking, man. Very nice. All right, I'm gonna stand over here.
Okay, I'm going first. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, everyone, and I'm excited to be back in Clemson, and we've been here for a while, and I hope to retire here, I hope to die here, and I love Clemson, I love my Puerto Rico, and I love all the people here, and I wouldn't have it any other way, so thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So our next recognition is Carlos Gonzalez. Carlos, where is Carlos? I've lost you. You're over in the, there you go, Carlos, okay. I see you over there in the corner. You were in the back before, so you moved up. I love it. So, all right, here we go. It's a proclamation for Carlos, whereas Carlos studied biochemistry and physical chemistry in Argentina, earning a PhD in 2001. Whereas after 10 years as professor at the University of Texas, San Antonio, Carlos came to Clemson University as a professor in the Department of Chemistry. Whereas Carlos was named associate chair of the chemistry department after just 2 years within the university, and was recently named faculty fellow in the advancement office, which was established to actively promote diversity, inclusion, in all aspects of academic community. Whereas outcomes of his research activities from his substantial research program has been presented and recognized at national and international scientific meetings and regularly published in the peer-referred journals, all of which students have co-authored. Whereas Carlos' research has received support from the National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation, National Agency for Space and Aeronautics, and the Office of Naval Research. Whereas in addition to his research and teaching, he is a faculty scholar with Clemson University School of Health Research, co-editor-in-chief, and member of the editorial board. Carlos, you're gonna have to pronounce this one for me. Which one is it? Okay, thank you. I'll just go with that. All right. So you're going beyond me here on this. Associate editor and member of the editorial board for Sensors and Diagnostics, and associate editor and member of the editorial board for the Natural Scientific Reports. Now, therefore, we, Clemson City Council, do hereby recognize Carlos for the valuable knowledge he has provided the scientific community through his research, as well as his dedication to educating young minds, instilling a love of research. I will say that again, instilling a love of research and advancement of his students, and increasing diversity and improving equity in our community. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed the 16th day of October 2023. Congratulations. Try not to drop this one, Carlos. Your family can come up. Congratulations, baby. Yes, sir. You want your family to come up?
I don't know if they want to come.
That's up to them.
You should have a pool lane picture.
Okay, I'll go in the middle. Dad, I'm going next to you. Okay, sorry.
I'm not blocking anybody in the back.
No, we're not.
1, 2, 3.
Stay, there's more photos.
There you go. One more photo.
Oh my God.
I just want to say thank you, Robert, for this. It's super weird to hear these things about me.
Well, I can't even say some of the things you do, so let alone, hey.
But it's great to be here, surrounded by my friends, by family, by my neighbors, by the team in the lab, by the people I work with. Even I normally don't see them very often. And of course, I want to thank publicly my wife because has been the support for all this. Because she will not forgive me if I don't say it. And of course, Bill. Boss, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much.
Gets so quiet. I really haven't had anything to drink or anything, okay? Come on, guys. All right. Next, we have a special proclamation. This is a surprise. So, Kay?
Yes.
How's it going? We're getting ready to recognize you. You didn't even know it, did you? At least that's what I've been told. So that's an honor in itself. So, and for those, before we recognize Kay, if you are with the families of the two proclamations we just did, please, if you can, stay for this next proclamation, but then after that, Everybody, please, we understand family comes first, and you can leave and we'll be quiet for a few minutes, but you're more than welcome to stay for the whole city council meeting. So, all right, Kay, now back to you, Kay. All right, so this is a proclamation for Kay Hickman Day, October 16, 2026. Whereas Kay Hickman moved to Clemson from Dallas, Texas in 1974 and has dedicated each of those nearly 50 years to serving her community. Whereas Kay has delivered meals for Dallas Nurses Aid, where she was living in Texas, so when she and her family moved to Clemson, she immediately began delivering meals for Clemson Meals on Wheels, picking up meals at Clemson House and delivering all over Clemson, even bringing her daughter along for the ride. Whereas during her meal deliveries, Kay checked in on every person, earning their love and respect because she loves and respects them. Whereas she's also served seniors in the area through a monthly outreach at Fort Hill Presbyterian Church, picking up seniors from local nursing homes and bringing them to church for a meal and a program. Whereas Kay has also opened her home to others who needed a place to stay for a while, treating them as part of the family. Whereas Kay's daughters, Lynn, Leslie, Maggie, say that their mom taught them many things, including that every person has dignity and worth, and that every skin color is beautiful, and that real generosity is more than just financial gifts, but those matter too. I like that. Whereas in addition to her dedication to serving others, Kay is known for her explosive laughter and instilled the importance of laughing loudly and often to all of her family. Now, therefore, I, Robert Halfacre, Mayor of the City of Clemson, do hereby proclaim October 6, 2023 as Kay Hickman Day in the City of Clemson in recognition of her selfless dedication to serving this community. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official Great Seal of the city to be affixed the 16th day of October 2023. Congratulations.
Sit still that long.
Congratulations. There you go.
Thank you.
I'm going to come over
Thank
here.
you. Super, super. Okay, good. We've got the whole crowd here.
Better. Yeah, I'm going to switch it. I'll squeeze it.
Come on in.
I'll squeeze it. Right here? Yeah, works for me.
That's it?
That's no Bob in it. It's not the shirt.
Which shot is that? All right. Thank you. And I see some volunteers here tonight.
Look at the room clear out.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're talking fantasy. Oh my God.
This is money. There's a lot of information. I got one more, but I got.
Are y'all on the same league? Oh, okay.
So if I do,
One thing we know how to do is clear a room.
I got some tough ones coming up.
It's amazing.
So you're doing big? Are you doing big?
And all of a sudden, I'm going from bottom feeder to say, well, those two guys.
I have a rookie.
You're hurting morale.
I'm hurt right now.
Serious.
Oh, that's okay. We did.
It'll balance out right at the end. I think probably about 40 minutes.
Oh, I got a couple of receivers. That's okay. That's keeping me afloat. But it's like,
I got to get Barclay back now. I didn't play him because I wasn't sure. I put him on the bench, but now that he's back,
100%.
yeah.
It makes you really think. I thought there were people who did all that before.
To put up signs for gym parking.
Didn't it go because they didn't fill up any I was like, wow, that makes you feel good.
I love all that.
I think they're having a party out there.
That's some happy noise,
I want to
though.
go out there.
I know, that's the place to be.
I love happy noise.
So I appreciate everybody's patience, and you can see they're still celebrating out there, but we'll keep moving along with the meeting, so we'll jump right back in on reports and discussion. And since we deviated back to the beginning of the agenda, and the next item is to discuss a possible infrastructure reimbursement agreement between Rutledge Development LLC and the City of Clemson for improvements made in the right-of-way of Singleton Street and Stone Circle. It has Ally, but I know, Andy, you're taking over for today. Or Nathan is. Okay.
Nathan, there you go.
Well, I saw Nathan step. Nathan step up. Come on, Nathan, step on up. You're ready. All right.
Allie's not here because she was in Tampa and her plane needed to stop in Chattanooga to get gas.
Trying to help to top it off.
She's on the road right now.
Really?
All right, so Nathan, you get it.
Sure. Thank you, guys. So under the city's infrastructure reimbursement ordinance, City Council handles requests on a case-by-case basis and determines the number of years and eligible activities for a infrastructure reimbursement request. You have some exhibits in your packet. Exhibit B from our city engineer that shows our estimation of the cost of this 6-inch water line on Singleton Street, as well as you will see one that the developer put together that shows, that our staff put together, that shows the 75% of that cost over 10 years on the next page, Andrew, or maybe I skipped. Yeah.
I just went to see the total estimated project cost was $44,000.
Yeah.
And then the max we can do is 75% of the taxes for a 10-year period for residential, and it's 2 homes. So the total combined reimbursement would be that amount over 10 years of the $44,000 total cost. So it doesn't cover it 100%.
Two new duplexes valued at $450,000 apiece.
But you want to upgrade the water line for
For the
fire
entire
pressure, for everything in that general area right there.
For the street.
120 linear feet of 6-inch.
I've been out there. It's a very nice addition to the city. And I will, the developer is in attendance if you all have any specific questions for him as well.
I will point out too, that just with property value increases in millage, you can look back to the examples they gave us. I think Wincop's is the only one that's complete, but that was done over an extended year period. It took 4 years to recoup it, just between, I mean, because if you do it on a percentage, you know, it will rise, that amount will rise with it. He's capped at 27,
Okay.
but what, it just pays back more quickly, historically. Anything can happen. Bobby reduced millage by 20.
Other comments, questions for Nathan? And nods.
I mean, is the 10-year typical, or is it, I mean, 7-year, 8-year?
They're normally much larger than this.
Yeah.
I know they are. It seemed like we did one
that's what I
more,
was
it
trying
seemed
to
like we just did one in the last couple of years.
I think it was shorter, but it was a bigger dollar amount coming back in there.
Well, was just curious as much as anything.
I just appreciate Eric putting in our infrastructure.
Right, I agree. Got some more for you.
He was laughing.
That Earl Street was predicted to take 8 years, for example. If you look on this sheet, it's predicted to take 8. Probably be quicker than that as well, though. So
That's fine, either way.
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Mindy. All right, next is to discuss to add the definition of excessive noise under city ordinance, and Chief, and you're on for the next 3 items, actually, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Our police advisory board has been discussing the noise ordinance and some of the challenges of the noise ordinance. We also had some discussions with our new city attorney about the prosecutability, for lack of a better description, of our noise ordinance. And one of the issues that we come into is if you look at our current excessive noise definition, it says means any noise that violates or prohibits and violates the prohibitions of the noise ordinance, but is not subject to an exception to the ordinance. Excessive noise includes, but not limited to, any unreasonably loud or raucous noise within the city limits, or any noise which is plainly audible at or beyond the property boundary on which the noise is being produced, and which is such a volume, nature, intensity, duration, location, timing, and or repetition that a reasonable person of ordinary sensibility would find that it interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life and or property by another person, or any noise produced at such a time or in such a manner that as to otherwise violate this section. That definition of excessive noise is subjective to the observer. And in a court of law where you have to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt, it's difficult to testify to that, convince a jury that what you're hearing meets this definition. So in our conversations, we started talking about decibels, and we talked about, different levels and noises, so on and so forth. I know many of you have seen news articles of what Greenville's been discussing for their downtown area and how they're going to take those readings, et cetera. So our police advisory board said, okay, well, why don't we define something that basically says, okay, this noise at a measurement is excessive, no matter what. And that's what's the proposed language that's in our agenda item, to add to this excessive noise definition, not to change it, but to add to it, any sound measuring over 90 decibels that may be heard at a distance over 100 feet from the source of the sound, lasting more than a minute continuously, or over five minutes intermittently. And I know for the public's sake, all of you joined me at different outings where we took noise measurements with a also distant meter, and kind of got an idea of what those decibel levels were and where we were standing, so that you knew how loud 90 decibels was and how loud everything below 90 was. And so the recommendation from the Police Advisory Board is that we add this to the ordinance. It does not prohibit us from using the noise meters to take a reading if we believe it fits the definition that I just mentioned, for brevity's sake, of a reasonable person of ordinary sensibility, with a decibel measurement that can go with it and it can be used in court to further prove that it was something that was excessive. It doesn't prohibit that. We could do that right now if we need to, but we felt like putting this decibel level in there kind of sets the groundwork for that to occur. Any questions?
No, I appreciated the field trip.
Thank you for coming. I know it was late for many of you.
Past my bedtime.
How many complaints do you get about downtown noise in a given year?
I'm going to look back to the two people who work at night.
Downtown complaints come from a top study most of the time.
Right. So most of the time it's behind
5 or 6 times a year though, or
yeah,
20?
they're not very many.
And then kind of in the neighborhoods, how many do you get?
There are not very many either, but usually when we're getting them, it's because somebody hired a band to play in their backyard or something like that. We do get adjacent apartment complaints all the time. We do get complaints next to It's Your Wiener and the youth center because they're right on top of one another. I would have to, I meant to run the numbers as to how many actual complaints we get. But actual violations, we probably issue maybe 5 a year.
Between downtown and the neighborhoods?
Most of them are in the neighborhood that we issue them. Downtown, we don't really issue too many of them.
I guess where I'm going with that is because you said that you needed a 90 and higher from a court of law, but really the subjective matter is the one that's more important to me anyway, because that's where the neighborhoods are, and you're probably not hitting that level. So, 65 decibels at 11:30 or 12:30 at night. I just don't want to find in some ways, I feel like we're getting a solution in search of a problem right here. If we're not writing the 4 or 5 a year, and it's mainly in the neighborhoods.
I guess my question is, if you set it at 90 and you go into a neighborhood with a complaint, does this not really almost tie your hands where you can't really charge them?
Because you're back to that same subjectivity.
I think this definition is similar to what you have below that says all fireworks are prohibited.
Right.
This definition says anything 90 decibels or louder is prohibited.
Right.
Is what it's saying.
What if it's 65 in my neighborhood?
Then the definition that I read to you, if we feel that it was raucous and the beats and all of that meet that definition, then we could say not only does it meet that definition, but it was 65 decibels at 100 feet from the source in a residential neighborhood.
But you're kind of saying the lawyer, though, said that you needed that. I guess that's where I'm a little hung up with your suggestion. You're saying he really needs this over here. Why didn't he need it over here?
He prefers to have the decibel reading in addition to the testimony as to how loud the noise is to be able to prove. Because, and the example I've used for many of you is, many of you get speeding complaints. Many of you see cars driving down the road and estimate how fast they're really going and are of the opinion that that car is going way, way too fast and it's going X amount over the speed limit. But until we have a radar gun there or a laser gun to point at it and say, that's how fast the vehicle is going, everything is subjective to that point.
And John, I hear what you're saying, but at the same point, we're talking over and over again about the density of downtown increasing.
Yep.
And this would be an early step as opposed to a reactive.
It's more to the bars than it is to the density.
Well, I understand, but I think those complaints are going to go up as it gets more dense. That's what I'm saying, it's one thing, you know, if we all of a sudden had those condos over TDs, then that would get us more complaints than right now. That's what I'm saying.
Actually, I think that's where your subjective is going to come in, because that's going to drift further and be at a lower level going across the lake if you do the ones like on Kiwi, for example. Anyway, just getting to weeds. I'm just asking my questions.
No, I'm just thinking.
So I may miss this, Chief. Where does the 90 come into play? You said that right at the beginning, you probably did, or where's that uniform? Is that excessive 90? Where does that 90 come into play?
That we're setting a decibel level to say any noise over 90 decibels is excessive.
What I'm saying is, like, where does 90 come from? Like, is that universal? Is that
I didn't
ask it properly.
I'm sorry. The police advisory board discussed back and forth, and we used a guiding document that actually planning gave to us when there was a proposed business going into a particular location. And there's standards that are met here, and I can share it with everybody, but basically 50 decibels is a rainfall, 60 decibels is a normal conversation, 110 is shouting in an ear. So they kind of compromised between the 60 and the 80, or sorry, 60 and 100, and said, well, let's go with 90. Now, if you want to change that, that's obviously up to you how you want to do that. But they were looking for a number that if council decided they wanted to move up or down from there, they could.
Well, and it was pretty clear when we were out, I mean, that 90 was not common. It would be too loud. It wasn't the train, it wasn't the distance, it wasn't anything on College Avenue until you got into Study Hall. Not to pick on Study Hall.
No, but we had to go into an establishment that had a band playing to get to the 90 decibels. Had that band been playing outside, I believe we would have gotten to the 90 decibels. As a matter of fact, I used the meter at on the Avenue event where we had a band, and I went 100 feet, a little more than 100 feet away from the band, and it was at 90. And the people that were standing around me, we had to shout at one another to hear each other because it was so loud. Now, the further away we got, and that's where the 100 feet comes into play, that obviously those decibels will go down.
Other questions, comments?
So we will come back to you for an action item to add to the ordinance at a later date. Okay. The next item, Mr. Mayor.
Just receive a presentation on underage drinking and discuss enacting a city policy on prevention measures.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to kind of give a little preface of how we got here, recently, actually, I think towards the beginning of the school year, Sled Alcohol did their annual meeting that they do with all the local establishments to talk about any law changes and so on and so forth. And a follow-up email to introduce the new agents to everyone. They linked some links to a pilot project that was done in Charleston about of ways to try to do innovative ways of combating underage drinking. And not only are we experiencing it, but Charleston, Columbia are all having issues with fake IDs, and the fake IDs getting a lot better and better and better. And so I started looking into this. I looked at the Charleston project, which you'll see in the presentation as to what their numbers were. But I wanted to see, well, if one of our local bar owners who's here came forward and said, why don't we try doing something like this here? They have a lot of challenges in their businesses. There's a few here that may want to speak to this. But I wanted to see, okay, if we're going to go in a pilot project like this, how do we tie empirical data to it to see if it actually is working? And we actually have, we being the police department, have 9 of these licenses. We use this product quite frequently, and we know the ins and outs on it. So I've asked the university, I have Kelly Metcalf here from Jennifer Gorey's office from Healthy Campuses. Yes. And they have data that they take in, and she's going to present that to you. There's a you have the presentation.
It's in the shared drive I do.
Yeah. So that they take in on people between 18 and 21 and information that they get. They kind of show you where Clemson is as compared to the rest of the country. She'll show you that here. And see if when you put a program like what Charleston did in place, what kind of effect may it have on those numbers? And that's what I would like to mirror the two with. So Jennifer, I'm sorry, Jennifer. Kelly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chief. Well, hello, and as you said, I'm Kelly Metcalf, so I work under Jennifer, so she went with us to the Police Advisory Board to kind of put all this together, though, so she was a part of this process. So if you'll go really to the 3rd slide, we don't necessarily need to look at this. So the data he's talking about is the National College Health Assessment. We send this out every other spring. So this is from 2020, 2022, and we're actually gearing up to send it out again in 2024. It is important to kind of keep in the back of your mind, we send this out in February. So we are not looking at, say, October and looking at this data in reference to football season. We specifically send it out in the spring to look at it in that regard. So in 2020, it was not bad. We had about 600 participants. One thing to note too is this did go out right before COVID shut down. So we do feel that these numbers are representative of what students were doing pre-COVID. And then nationally, their percent rate was doing pretty well as well in 2020. And then you'll see in 2022, we had a huge uptick, really. Like, we had so many more students participate, and it's sent out to 5,000 students randomly. Those 5,000 students are supposed to be a representative data collection of our campus. So of those 5,000, we had 906 do it. And then nationally, you can see their numbers as well. I want you to see this too, because these colors correlate throughout the entire presentation for you to see how it is going to compare. And we also, just for slight background, we're not going to look before 2022 because the way that the the way the survey was delivered changed, so we don't feel that we can compare them accurately. So if you'll go to the next one, we are specifically looking at tobacco, alcohol, and other drug use. So the ones that we want to point out here, obviously, is the alcohol use, right? So this is substance use ever. You can see in 2020 and in 22, we're above the national rate for substance use. It's not by a ton necessarily, but we have 76% for 2022 versus 72% for the national data. And then that little star down there is just to say that this is changing at a statistically significant rate. So we are technically decreasing for Clemson. You'll see that dark purple versus the orange. So that is something to look at that's good, but we still are, it's an uphill battle, right? If you'll go to the next one, risk. So we're gonna look at moderate risk on this slide and then high risk. So this asks a series of questions to the students about like your prescriptions. Are you misusing them? Are you giving them away? Or is there anyone specifically in your life that is concerned about you? There's a list of questions they'll go through. And then for 2020, you can see we had about 18% that were at moderate risk for alcohol use, and then we have 14% for 2022. So we are still above the national percentage here as well. And then if you'll go to the next slide, we have high risk. So obviously this is a much smaller percentage rate we're looking at. So you can see the national level is only a 1.1%. For Clemson, we have that 0.9%. We personally feel in Healthy Campus that any percent of high risk is an issue and we need to address it. So that's why I wanted to put it in front of you to see that these numbers are still something to look at. Okay, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Right here are these negative consequences that we asked students in this survey if they've faced any of these things while using alcohol. So obviously blackouts, brownouts, driving, doing something I later regretted. The ones I really want you to look at here are getting in trouble with the university and getting in trouble with the police. You can see nationally at getting in trouble with the university, we're at a 1%. Clemson specific is 1.5. And then getting in trouble with the police nationally is 0.7. Clemson specific, again, is 2.1. So we are higher than the national rate here as far as those consequences. And then the last one, just to note, it says 5+ drinks in a sitting. This is what we would consider binge drinking for any of these things. And in 2022, we had 50% nationally and 60.6% for Clemson specific. So it's definitely an issue that we are targeting and looking at. If you'll go to the next slide for me, please. These risk factors are important to consider that we think about when we're looking at this information. So the first 6 weeks of class in general for students, not just freshman year, we are out of those 6 weeks, but the first 6 weeks are the most vulnerable for students. When you look at alcohol-related consequences, how often they're drinking, just think of the situations that they are in, the social experiences they're experiencing for the first time as in a freshman or coming back to school that they haven't been around. And then we also note, looking at data from across the state and across the nation, that students with a strong Greek life or a prominent sports program, they typically drink more than students that do not have this in their college life. So then in living arrangements here, when we look at alcohol consumption, it is pretty clear that it is highest among, again, students in the FSL community living with their brothers or sisters, and then it is lowest among the community students that live at home. Okay, if you'll go this next one for me. Yes, so specifically with alcohol use, I do want to briefly touch on sexual assault. So the NIAAA pulls data yearly for this type of stuff, and they say that 696,000 students between the ages of 18 and 24 are assaulted by another student. So obviously the sexual assault we know is underreported. They still feel that these numbers are accurate and give a decent representation of the information below to say 1 in 5 women, college women, experience sexual assault while they're in college. But then when you also look at that, it's pretty clear that a majority of these involve a student that has also consumed alcohol or another substance. If you'll go to the next one for me. These are just really quickly the college aim. This is kind of what we use as our gold standards. So when I first started a little over a year ago, we kind of did an in-house audit for Clemson University and the programs that we have in place for prevention and initiatives around alcohol and other drugs. And this is where we pull that to say, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what's working. They do things, you get no stars, you get 1, you get 2, or you get 3 stars. If you'll go to the next slide, I just want y'all to see that nationally and backed by data, they are saying that enforcing that 21 drinking age is the highest level of the environmental strategy that you can put in place. So as Healthy Campus, from public health, we just really feel that what Chief is proposing can really help these students. And one thing that we like to also think about in regards to this is if we're putting this in place to help prevent students from underage drinking, think about the prevention and the help they are getting before they are 21, before they graduate, and before they are gone, and that help is not presented to them in a way like this to then get the extra resources that either the university or the community offers. I do want to, I know I just put a lot in front of you. We are going to let you ask questions, but if you just have anything pressing at the moment, please feel free to ask me. All right.
I would just say I echo everything you said, because, you know, we work together, so.
Right. You've seen part of this presentation already.
I know exactly, yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So there are many different policies that are recommended policies that cities and other governmental entities can take to address the issue of underage drinking. What I am proposing here is just one of many multi-faceted policies that can go into place. So in our agenda item, it says for the city to adopt a policy to address underage drinking. So this doesn't mean just the program that I'm proposing here. It could be a multitude of other things that we consider as we move forward. But since we have the Charleston pilot project as an example, that's what's being proposed today as one way of doing this. And as you know, we have finite resources at the police department. We enforce this a lot. We're downtown. When we did the noise measurements, you were down there, you saw my officers down there. They're in the bars, they're out on the street. The bar owners will tell you how frequently we come in there, but we only have so much that we can go on. So partnering with the establishments that sell the alcohol and helping them in detecting these fake IDs and stopping some of these sales from occurring is what I'm proposing. And so IntelliCheck is this, and now I will remind you too, this isn't just Clemson University students, it's high school all the way up. So this affects any high school student that may have gotten their hands on a fake ID and is going down to a local convenience store or whatnot to go buy a 12-pack of beer or whatever. So it's aimed to get the whole community, not just one specific area, but we just tend to have more that are coming from across the street. Next slide, please. So IntelliCheck is the company that has Age ID, and you asked why IntelliCheck. Well, SLED Alcohol Division partnered with IntelliCheck as well as a bunch of other law enforcement agencies around. IntelliCheck has been around for a while. They are in the business of verifying financial documents as well as IDs and so on and so forth. And they are one of the leading, if not the leading company that has an app that can use technology to try and combat this. Next slide. So they are the most accurate. This is their slide, so I'm just regurgitating. You can read for yourself. Like I said, we have 9 of the 9 licenses that we use. Next slide. Just to kind of tell you what it does is, as you can see up there, all of the driver's licenses across the United States have a scan code or scan bar on the back. Each state has security measures that are embedded in that scan code that the counterfeiters do not know. They're not publicly known. So what this app does is it looks for those security measures within that scan bar, and if they're not in there, it flags it and says either something's wrong with it or it's bad. The other thing it does in that same scan book code is all of our information. So, you know, if you get pulled over and one of my officers scans the back of it, your name, your date of birth, your address, everything that would be on the front of your driver's license automatically, electronically gets inputted into the system to write the ticket. Well, it uses that same data to calculate the date of birth or the age of the person to kind of give you a visual indication and the name that should come back on the front. So if they're embedding information that's not valid, the person who's using it can look at the front of the ID, back of the ID and go, okay, something's really not right with this ID. Next one. And this explains again, and you can read it, the security measures I was talking about in the scan bar. Next slide. Again, reiterating what we already talked about the rise of underage drinking, how many are acquiring fake IDs. Next slide, please. It talks about how many IDs they've scanned in the last year, which is over 3 million. 103,000 instances someone's attempting to do a fake ID. So either 70,000 verified, 33,000 passed but were expired. So you have some people that will use expired information to make the fake ID. Next slide. This is talking about the City of Charleston pilot program, how many scans they've done. They only did it for 6 months. And I'm asking to do it for a full year, like I said earlier, because I want to coincide with the data that the university gets within that year. If we just do 6 months, we're only going to capture 1/2 of the year. So I'm asked for 12 months on this. Next. Again, it's just showing new stuff that you can get of their program. Go ahead and go to the next one. Again, more statements. Next. So they did this in Charleston. They did this on the King Street area specifically, and that's where they've seen their significant. The other thing that I will say is, if you're not aware, in 5 Points down in Columbia, they have a lot of challenges down there. But when all their businesses down there were up for renewal for their liquor license, SLED had compiled information about how many MIP arrests, disorderly arrests, and such that occurred down there, and found that a lot of the establishments down there were not doing enough to screen people as they come in the door. So SLED gave this information to the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue, in considering their license renewals, went before an administrative law judge, and they actually have an agreement attached to all of the establishments, or most of the establishments in 5 Points, where there are several things that they have to do to help combat this, and one of them is using an electronic forensic scanner, as they say, to scan the IDs as they come in, and they're mandated to do that now in the 5 Points area. But here is the program here. It says here, I put 12 months up there. I've got that confirmed with the VP. They're offering to give us 15 establishments, 5 licenses apiece. So if you have more than one door that you're allowing people to come into your establishment, you can have it on more than one device, up to 5, for a flat fee of $3,500 a month. Of course, that would be covered over a year's time. There is, one local establishment uses the app right now. They were going to show, but I guess something came up. I do have a couple of other bar owners here that may want to talk on the topic of some of the challenges that they have. I know, I know John at Study Hall uses a different device right now to help scan people as they come in. But I've talked to that company, and they don't go as in depth in the checking of the scan bar as this particular company does. John or
So the ones I used, I invested in, so I have 6 units. And so the reason I didn't invest in IntelliCheck, it's 30 cents per scan. And so that gets expensive, you know, and I think they do one unlimited up in Cameron. They do one unlimited package, I think, but after that it's 30 cents per scan. So on game day weekends and stuff, and that's what I was telling Chief about today, when I see like a son or a daughter and their parents are behind them, I like to scan everybody that comes in the building, because it just gives me a track of, like I told him before, fire alarms got pulled there, and we go back and look at the camera system, and we can go back to our ID system we have now and pull names up and kind of figure out who it is that pulled the fire alarm system and stuff like that. So I like to scan everybody that comes in, but when you're spending 30 cents per scan, it's a financial thing, you know. So that's where I was telling him, I said, if we can get any help from the state or just anything like that, I think a lot of us are willing to do it. And Cameron had a bigger today. That's who I think he was referring to. Yeah. So, but Cameron does use it. But like he says, he uses it. You know, he's like, Stark, if I see someone that's 50 years old, I'm not going to scan their ID. And I just like to have a track of who came in and who came out, just number wise, because those ID scanners hold a lot of information. So you know, when Chief, he asked me, when he called me about a month ago, he's like, hey, Stark, is there anything that my systems, I have 6 of them I invested in, and they're going to where if I think the ID is questionable, I can run it through their database, but they don't have it out yet. They said they're probably 90 days out on it. So they're kind of, but IntelliCheck is the tip of the spear as far as the technology, and also around IDs, but also, like I said, it goes to 30 cents per scan. So that's where, but I think a lot of the people downtown are willing to do it. We're just wanting to know, even if the state, you know, I don't know if the state level can say, hey, you know, because there's no crime. I mean, me and Cameron talked today. When the kid doesn't get in, or the man or the woman doesn't get in, they just turn around and laugh at their friends like, "Oh man, good try," you know. And we can't take their ID because we can get in trouble if it's a legitimate ID
So there's no consequence? There's no consequence?
There's no consequence.
If they get caught at
You
the door,
can't take it, if it's a fake ID, or if you can't take it?
Well, the only things aren't doing
I
that.
think what they're concerned about is they don't have a system that's robust enough to confirm that it's fake.
With this system, could they?
This system, if it flags it as fake, it's then contraband, and technically, they wouldn't get in trouble for it. But what they're concerned about is if it's a legitimate ID and they take it, then that may be construed as theft. So they're trying to prevent themselves from getting.
I mean, it's like whack-a-mole right now, and unless there's a consequence or unless you take it, I mean, you're right, they're just gonna laugh it off and go to the next one and hope they get in. So, I mean, I absolutely embrace doing this, but I think we've gotta figure out a way to either confiscate the card or come up with something else.
So we'll work on that. One part of before we roll it out, we would do training with the staff and what our expectations are on that. But the other thing I'll say too is when they buy these fake IDs, they don't just buy one.
Oh, I know.
They'll buy 4 or 5 at a time. And I have a story that Andy and I were pulling out back here. A girl went racing past me, and Andy blew our doors off. I pulled her over for speeding, and I asked her for a driver's license. She handed me her fake ID.
Gosh. Well, I guess the other question is there not?
So, you know, that's how prolific these are right now.
Is it not a federal law about this as far as an ID? Just think about terrorists and all that. They're using a fake ID. It's not the same thing.
but you're not trying to do anything. That's what he's
Yeah.
saying, is if all I do is, if I'm I just speak from experience. If all I'm saying is I show you my fake ID and you say, no, this is not your ID, I just walk away. I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I haven't bought anything or
But you've used the
fraudulent.
fake ID.
She tried to tempt it, but it's a piece of state property, right?
Just presenting it or possessing it is a crime. It's a misdemeanor though. It's not a felony.
But at the end of the day, if there's no consequence, then, I mean, I get it, you're gonna refuse to, you know, if every bar in town has it, maybe, but you know, until everybody that sells alcohol uses this device, then you're not really gonna stop anything.
I don't think we're gonna stop it.
I was about to say.
All we're trying to do is make it more difficult to get there. The other thing that's looming out there that's gonna be even more difficult is a lot of states are considering going to mobile driver's licenses that you would have on your phone, kind of like you would get a ticket for a sporting event or something like that. But now, or your insurance card right now, you can show on your phone. There are states that are talking about moving to this at a mobile, and so there's going to be a technology curve there as well. And I think these companies are talking about this as well as to how that's going to be combated.
So let me ask my question. It's actually kind of the inverse of John's question. If occasionally they miss, that's why you don't want to get rid of the cards because it is a legitimate card. What if it misses and you let somebody underage in and the city's supplying this device, they're relying on us, that person gets in an accident later, kind of a liability. What are we looking at then? So we gave you the device as our pilot and you're entrusting yourself to that.
So I'm working on an agreement that we're going to present to an attorney that has an indemnification clause in there to hold us harmless on a situation like that. But it's the same thing with IntelliCheck. IntelliCheck has an agreement that the user would sign saying that this isn't a end-all be-all, because I have two sergeants in here and they'll tell you we still get fake IDs on this app that will scan as good. Technology's constantly changing, the counterfeiters are getting better, sometimes there's glitches in the technology, so those things happen. But we, as police officers, have other resources that we can do another check on to see if they don't. So if they do go in and something happens to them, we have that agreement in place, then that you know, anybody can sue anybody for anything. So it's another layer to help protect us. We're in that, yes.
I think it's a great idea because, to you all's point, even though John said there'd be consequences, the fact of the matter is you hopefully deterring, and that's the key, is that gives the bar owners opportunities to turn people away on a more regular basis, even though it may not be 100% proof, but it's just one other way. Because I can tell you in my previous, many years ago, and technology is much better, but I had to work with a student who actually, that was his job, is to create and develop these fake IDs. And they were so easy to do, and they look so real. So it's a real business, and students are very creative. or not, I won't say just students, people are very creative. So I think it's just one measure or one another way to do that, because you're right, they may go to another one, or they just may have another one in their wallet too. So you take that one, then I'm just use my other one. So either way, but at least they didn't get into that establishment. So now they have to go to another establishment, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. And then the more businesses that are using it, the better chances. And so I think as long as we have a way to deter, that's the most important aspect of it.
The question I got, the 3,500, is that per unit, is that per device?
That it's a flat fee for the 15 establishments.
Okay.
So 3,500 per month for 15 establishments.
And each establishment could have as many as 5?
Up to 5, yes.
And then they don't get charged the 30 cents
Not for the pilot.
Not for the pilot, okay.
Not for the pilot. Now, once the pilot is done, then there would be another negotiation.
Okay.
And the way Charleston worked, as I understand it, is Intellicheck offered a discount to the establishments that continued to use it after the pilot was over, and that's between them and Intellicheck that I'm.
And so, Chief, remind me, state funding, wasn't there some state funding that came into play with a municipality?
For Charleston?
No, not necessarily for Charleston. I was thinking for some, because we were talking about funding. This was a while back. I saw an article.
I reached out to a SLED agent that used to also work for the Phoenix Center to see if there was any other funding out there to help. He was looking into it, hasn't gotten back to me yet. One thing we could do as well is ask the university if they have any money that they can put towards this. Since this is something that we're just proposing, I haven't talked to anybody directly over there. But you know, one thing I will also say too, and I have 2 sergeants here. I have Sergeant Davis, who she can tell you how this stuff worked downtown and what they run into. Also, Sergeant Yassine is here, and he's one of our night shift sergeants, and they deal with it all the time. Give you some perspective, and I don't want to forget, Dale wants to talk about small business perspective on this.
Well, for me, and the reason why I brought it up to you guys is I can't afford this. So the way that it's set up right now, I can't afford it. Collectively, hopefully we can get a better bargain on it, and we're going to go forward with this. And I would like to see it. I know earlier this year, I started using a door guide kind of for the first time on weekends. Traffic dropped by 20%. So I imagine we'll get another drop from this, but from a liability perspective, I mean, with the way insurance rates are going right now, I've yet to see mine, which will get renewed like next month. I know they're going up, and they're probably going up by 25–50%. I don't know if something like this will go up. But I know it can't hurt. It's the same reason why I installed cameras finally too.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I know about the rates and I know why. And I was wondering if hopefully programs like this would help with that battle of managing your liability. Even if nothing else, like you said, John, that you would have a record that the person was in at noon, not at 8 o'clock at night. That's what I'm wondering.
I also think that there is a community benefit here and a university benefit here. And it may be that there's some funding mechanisms that are not necessarily the burden of the bar owners or the others, but can become a joint burden with the university as well. You know, I'm not saying all there, I mean, it's a 50-50 split or whatever the case may be, but I think we all benefit more so. And at the end of the day, it helps everybody.
And certainly looking for those funding sources. The only state funding that I know of that we get from SLED, and it's for specific details where we're sending people in to see if the bars and or convenience stores and whoever sells alcohol is doing the proper checks that they're supposed to be doing. But the funding that we get for that is not enough to cover the full cost of this. But there may be some other entities out there. I know the city of Charleston got a grant from their Visitors Bureau or something to fund their project. But obviously they have different, larger funding sources than we do. So, but yes, I'm all for seeing if there's partners to help fund it.
That would be great. Right. The university seems like
I just, until there's a consequence, I just feel like it's just putting a finger in the dike. I mean, it just continues to leak, and I don't know where the the decision on making it a consequence would come from, was it the state level or whatever, but.
So in our efforts to not ruin somebody's life and ruin their records, there are also the pretrial intervention programs that we already have set up through the solicitor's office. And you will quite commonly hear the students say that they have 3 strikes before it really means anything. And that even includes going to Healthy Campus because they got popped for MIP. They get sent over, not Healthy Campus, I'm sorry. OCS. And so it's almost like, it's like they're wheeling and dealing and they know, what. And then when it's time for them to get in trouble, then all of a sudden they're coming to us and it's the end of the world, the kind of thing. Sergeant Davis or Sergeant Easton, either one of you have anything to ask that?
Hi, I'm Lily. Like Ms. Smith said, it is a huge deterrent. I think that is something that we need downtown because technology is getting better and better and better with these fake IDs. Most of the time, how I find them is reading body language. Just asking them, can I see your ID? And they say, I don't have one. Okay. I know you have one, you got it at the door. But I think with the scanners, because there have been working downtown, I have had many doormen come up to me and say, what app is that you're using? Can we get that? And it is one that we received through the city, so I know it's not one that I'm under the impression that they're not able to get. There are other ones out there, but I know when they first started coming out, we did download them and use them. They didn't catch them as well as IntelliCheck does. There are still glitches in the system. It doesn't catch them all, unfortunately, but it does help. And of course, word gets out real quick on Yik Yak. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but it's just a...
Oh, is this still?
I know it exists. But they will say, when we first started using the scanners, the kids did go on there and say cops are using scanners, stuff like that. So I think that does help, and I think if the bars had it, they might be a little more hesitant, thinking, well, is my fake ID going to pass? Is it not? And it may not, and they may still be able to go in, but I think they will, like Ms. Smith said, think twice about it if they know that the bars are using it. That it's not just us, because we do get busy downtown, especially during football season, so we can't be in there checking IDs. Realistically, I like doing alcohol enforcement, and I wish I could have stayed in the bars the entire time, but we do get busy down there with fights, with drunks, with collisions, that kind of thing. But honestly, it's like fishing in a barrel down there. Probably, I would be willing to say, some nights, if I stuck to it a few hours, I could get 10 MIPs in one night easy. And that was probably one person I would pull out of the bar and their 4 or 5 other friends are running. So, it's down there, it's a big problem downtown. But I do think, I know it is pricey. I don't know if Deotis would have any kind of funding they could give us. But I do think it'd be worthwhile just because I know there are parents that come when they bring their high school kids to tour the campus. They have stopped us before and asked, how is Clemson? What do y'all do to prevent stuff? And we try to tell them we do alcohol enforcement, that kind of thing. So, I do think it is something that we could give parents reassuring that we are trying to combat the underage drinking problem.
So this will be for a year at this rate. So we'll have time to develop what the cost would be, I'd like to think, before we go into year 2. I'd like to see if it couldn't possibly line up with the budgeting process, but it may be a little behind that, so we'd understand what the cost could possibly be for us, and maybe at the same time have some meaningful conversations with the university.
So Andy and I talked today, and we have a couple of other discussions. So we're halfway through our budget year almost. So there might be some possibilities of funding after January, and then figuring all that out moving into the fall, and that way we'll have from January to January. But we're still talking about that, and I'll now approach the university and say, is there any funding available that we can put towards this, and how much? But we'll come up with a plan and figure out how to go from there.
Yeah, it'd be nice to set the stage with joint funding.
Right. So it's not a burden on the board.
We can bring that up in our monthly meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. Can we get your presentation from the university side?
Got it.
Well, I know
It's in the-
make sure it's
It's on the on the website also.
Make sure.
And just,
I already get it early on.
okay, before I'm done with that quiz, how many licensed establishments inside the city of Clemson do we have that sell alcohol?
This is convenience
serve it.
stores and everything?
Convenience stores and everything. 40?
So,
60.
You know, 62.
52.
If my calculations are correct, it's 69.
Yes.
Now, there are
You would know.
multiple licenses that an establishment may have 2 or 3 types of licenses, so I just counted that as one.
All right.
Wow, all right.
And we got.
Yeah, I heard you trying to
Got
prices
the
right
mapping.
over there.
Oh, the mapping.
Mapping.
All right. Andy, can you go to the web? So we used to have a map when I first got here, but the vendor that.
We can go online, don't
Yeah, just go to ClemsonPD.org. They used to show our residents all of our incidents that have occurred throughout the city. We now have a new vendor that's doing that.
Why did I type it in there? That was dumb.
If you go to our main webpage, which is clemsonpd.org, and you navigate up to the top where it says crime info, my mouse can get up there, right there. When you click on it, it will take you to the LexisNexis website. You click OK or continue, and it'll zoom in to Clemson. And in this window where you're seeing right now, it's supposed to show you, you'll see different icons here. Let's see. So if I go up here to the filter, and I select all, and I select the date range. So there's a date range over here, but I can go in the middle and just
Before
say,
you do that, my house isn't gonna show up when you do it.
I was just worried it's gonna show up here with all.
there are some crimes that we do not
Crimes
report.
against humanity.
So I apply it. And now that I'm doing that, it's not working.
What's the date that you
We
apply?
just say there's no crime.
Maybe that just wasn't.
Safest city in South Carolina.
No, I did it for,
Mine didn't work either.
yeah, it doesn't look like it's working.
Oh, God.
Oh, wow. We're crime free.
That's
No
what I'm going
fraud, no DUI, no drugs this week.
No MIPs.
All right, there we go. So I went further back, so I'm gonna have to find out why it
There
didn't
must be a
initially show up.
delay on the, yeah.
So what it shows you is, each icon is something different. And the icons you see with the numbers on them means there's 10 incidences at that location. So if I click on that 10, it'll list them out to the side of what all those different incidents are. Now, under the law, we can't release a lot of information, personal information, victim information, that kind of stuff, so you're not going to see a lot of information on it. You're going to see the crime type or the report, you're going to see the agency case number, you're going to see the date and time that it was reported, and you're going to see an approximate address. So if you see right here, 1XXX Tiger Boulevard, it's taking that out so that you can't identify the exact location of where it occurred, because especially if it's a residence, somebody's got to figure out who it is, like Bob, they figured out it's your house. So
We worked that out, Chief.
so there are a couple of crimes that I do not report on here. Sexual assault is one of them. So some of the sex crimes, some of the crimes against children crimes will not show up on here.
Domestic violence?
Domestic violence, I think it'll show up, but it won't give an exact address or anything other information. It'll just say, it may just come up as a plain assault.
Well, these look like they're at the police station, so could these be just like a uncategorized?
These, a lot of times, people will take walk-in reports.
Oh, got it.
And so that's why you'll see that. But like over here.
Yeah, the 500 block of College Ave.
Yeah, so it's showing stuff on College Avenue here. Now the program that we use currently to take our incident reports is an older piece of software. So there's still some glitches when they transfer the stuff over to the new database, and sometimes you'll see things that'll look a little erroneous. But we are working on trying to get all that situated and figured out. We're moving to a new software. It's the same software that the university and the county uses, and once we move to that, those glitches will go away. But anyway, so the other thing that I want to show you and the public is you could come up here to where this little bell is up at the upper right-hand corner, And you can put your address in, and you can select the incidences you want to be notified of within a certain time frame, and it will send you an email when they pop up. So you don't have to constantly go to the web page to know when those incidents come up. It'll send you an email, and you go, "Oh, what happened over here?" If you care to do so, or if you have a business, you put your business address in there, and you can find out what's going on around your business. So that's one neat feature. The other thing, real quick, that I'll show you, we're not the only ones that use this. If you zoom out and you look over here at Greenville, the city of Greenville,
there you go.
you'll see they have the measles. But the city and county of Greenville use this same company to do the same thing. So any of the icons I click on, same thing. It's going to show the same kind of information.
Well, they got a lot going on.
Makes you glad to live in Clemson, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, any questions? All righty.
Had a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Busy night for you, always.
Yeah.
Thank you. So next, Andy, staff reports.
This month, PCNA has been canceled. That was going to be hosted by Pickens. So you have the evening of the 23rd off. Conversations with Council is on a different date this week. It's this Thursday at Golden View Baptist Church at 6:30. And
Golden View?
Is that going to be in the basement area?
it's going to be in the social hall. We didn't want to be in the sanctuary because
No, it's not. So down, you just have to come around to the side and enter on that side.
Yeah. Our mid-plant kickoff meeting, that is our discussions to do a joint sewer study with the county for the mid-plant, is going to start this Thursday as well. And I need to know from y'all who would like to be on a committee I'm looking for 2 volunteers who would like to meet once a month, if needed, to go over proclamation and sponsor requests. Bob and Lillian.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank y'all so much.
You and I are being really quiet.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
That sounds fun.
You know, we get usually 3 a day.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Okay.
3 a day?
So a lot of them use a little. That's just the ones you sent me.
I get them and I forward them to you and then we talk about them, so.
That's just the ones you sent.
They're all good, is the problem.
That's funny. That's funny.
I wasn't able to open that document, so you probably have to send it again.
I'll send it again. I tried to send everything on my phone and it made you get permission. I don't know why.
Yeah, that was weird.
So I'll send it out again. That's all I have, Mayor.
Cool. All right, next is policy action. Nathan's walking up, not Gracie. Consider approving the amendments to the traffic calming policy. Remember, 2-minute limit per speaker if anybody would like to make any comments. And so Nathan.
So these are the same amendments that we talked about last meeting. Nothing has been changed. We did appreciate the thought to follow up with all of the anyone who wants to follow through these guidelines, following up and seeing how it works, how it's working for them about a year later. That'd be the staff.
Comments, questions for Nathan? Anybody from the public? All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move we approve the amendment to the traffic calming policy. Second.
Any comments, discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Next is consider the Accommodations Tax Committee recommendations for ATAX grants. Leslie.
How are y'all?
Good.
The ATAX committee had recommended that you approve the ATAX grants for the ones listed, which would include the Chamber of Commerce for their rowing events, the City of Clemson's Tourism Department, the City of Clemson Parks and Rec for Nettle Scoreboard and field name sign replacement, Brooks Center for $5,000 for their promotional and marketing, and then the Clemson Aquatic Team for their 3 swim meets that they have out at 12 Mile, or in that vicinity.
But these are the ones you presented?
Yes.
Yes,
No
sir. These are the
No
same
changes.
as- No changes.
Questions,
My
comments?
only one, so the 250, roughly $11,000 is still available. That can just kind of get filled in if an event pops up over the course of the year, or is
No,
that?
sir, we're not allowed. We can
That's what I
hold
wanted to kind
up.
of clarify.
Okay,
We can
yes, sir.
carry that over
We
and-
can carry it over up to 2 years, so,
Okay.
but, I don't foresee that
So it's not a pot of money that's,
usable this time. And they recommended that it be carried over to next year as well, so.
Comments? Any other questions, comments? Public? All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the Accommodations Tax Committee recommendations for tax grants as presented.
Second.
Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate you doing that. Next, Mayor Council reports, comments, new business. Just a couple things. I got to do. Yes, I was at the Arts Center earlier today. I do have a pumpkin now through the glass blowing, and he was a very good instructor to demonstrate his talents on using the firing mechanism. Anyway, when it's 2,000 degrees, you don't put your face or hand anywhere near that. But with that said, there were 5 other people in the class I was in, and they all seemed to enjoy it as well. And so I know the classes are full for the rest of this week, but what I'm going to is it's the 3rd annual Pumpkin Palooza this Friday from 6 to 8. If you get a chance, please go by the Arts Center. I think it's worthwhile. I went last year, bought a couple pumpkins last year. And then also there's some Pumpkin Palooza open house that the next day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Create a clay Halloween bag, glass blowing demo, class fusing, pumpkin themed. I don't even know the fusing, I just did the, okay, create a pumpkin print. So keep that in mind. I know Joan and many others from the Arts Center did a fabulous job. And then also, I know this is reoccurring, just remember there's many events also at CAM. There's the Family Feud that's coming up this Thursday. That's also with conversation with the council, but then also movie nights as well. So keep those in mind. Those are great activities going on over there. And I know there's many others, but I just want to highlight a couple of them. Any others?
The Shaw Center Saturday had a Wheels Clinic, and we did 16 wheels.
Wow.
That's great. Awesome. Nice work with hot dogs. You had like 500 there, I think, or something.
No, we had 100. We won't have that many next time.
He was trying to feed me. So you did. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Anything else? All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
Any comments, discussion?